Well, hello there, and welcome to the Benzo Free Podcast. This is your host, D. I'm so glad you joined me. I'm just going to record a short one today. I'm trying to get these out a little more frequently, and that also means it might be a little shorter, just trying to get more content out going. I've been doing some of the uneven lately podcasts, but I want to keep the Benzo Free Podcast going live too. And plus, there's definitely topics that I want to talk about on this podcast that aren't appropriate for the other podcast since it's not Benzo focused. How are you holding up today? I still communicate with several of you, some on emails, some on text, some other places, and work with some of you on some of the things you're going through. And I know how hard that is and what you're struggling with and the limitations and the symptoms and the difficulties and the stress, and it's crazy. It's especially when we still don't seem to have decent recognition of our problem from the medical community. This still frustrates me to the nth degree. I can tell you right now, I deal with this all the time, and I'm still working on a few different research teams, and those research teams were having the same problem, is getting recognition of this long-term condition. And it's difficult. We're doing the best we can, but we keep pushing for it. But I know it's still hard to... It's harder to live when you're dealing with this extra element. And I think that's true with anybody who's suffering from a long-term ailment of some kind, which benzodiazepine-induced neurological dysfunction, or whatever you want to call the protracted state of benzodiazepine withdrawal. That is a condition that exacerbates other conditions. And bind, unfortunately, exacerbates a lot of things. We've seen a lot with COVID. I've seen it directly. Every time I've gotten COVID 4 or 5 times now. The last couple times I've gotten it, I wound up with long COVID, and long COVID, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, doesn't seem to play well with bind. And it sets off our symptoms. In fact, I'm in the middle of that right now. And I now have what's either neuropathy or something. I mean, I've had random pains throughout my benzo withdrawal at 9.5 years now off of Klonopin. And they come and gone, and most of those have abated. But now I've had this cycle of nerve pain just hitting me, and some of it's pretty strong, especially on the outside of my right foot. That one feels like somebody's stabbing me with a knife when that hits, and it just happens. And then I get other pain on my thighs and on my legs, and now I'm getting it sometimes on my arm and my armpit and on my arm and other places. I think where maybe there's already strain of the muscle or of the nerves, then my guess is it's a hypersensitivity for touch right now, and for not just touch, but for any kind of sensations, muscles, sensations on the nerves. My guess is it is COVID/bind that I'm dealing with. I think the last virus I brought back from Arizona was COVID, that my wife and I both have, again, just because the symptoms seem to match. I've had it too many times now. And it does set off benzo symptoms. Many of you have experienced this. I've gotten a lot of feedback on it, and I appreciate that, because I want to see that commonality. This new one is a symptom I didn't have. That's what's interesting with this, is it seems to be symptoms for some of us that we didn't have before. Before I hit COVID, almost all my symptoms that are still lingering are ones I've had for a long time. Okay, cognitive dysfunction, some excessive anxiety, paresthesia, akathisia, other ones that I've had early on, tinnitus, and I know there's several others. I always can't remember all the ones I deal with. There was such a long list. Those ones I still have periodically, because it's just, that's part of my recovery. And but those are ones I've had since the beginning. These other ones that I got, like last time I had COVID and went into long COVID, I had dysphagia, which is throat tightening, and I had difficulty swallowing, and I went through procedures and tests and everything trying to figure that one out. And that was new. I had some little bit of I had throat tightening early on, but I didn't have the difficulty swallowing to the degree of what it was, so it was relatively new. Plus, I had a new form of tinnitus and some other symptoms that hit me, and it was different. And the same this time. This time it's this random nerve pain that's different. And I wanted to talk about that today a little bit because I'll admit this has really gotten me down lately, and I've been dealing with this for over a month now, or a month and a half maybe, with this random nerve pain. And I'm thinking it's diabetes, it's neuropathy, it's I did take a fluoroquinolone, not intended, but I took a fluoroquinolone by accident when I came off benzos, and that may have also caused neuropathy. It can cause peripheral neuropathy, so that could be another factor for the nerve pain. It could be all kinds of causes that could lead to it, and it could just be benzos and COVID, which is probably the most likely answer. But we always go through that cycle, don't we? I don't know about you, but I go through that cycle of every time there's a new symptom, and it freaks you out, doesn't it? Oh, there's Murphy barking upstairs. So if you're hearing paw prints or a bark, it's because Murphy's upstairs, and I'm recording in the basement right now. Shanna's up there with them, so and with the windows are open because it's like 80 degrees out today, and so he's hearing everything and everything he barks at, and we're working with him. He's a dog in progress, trying to get him trained. But if you listen to the Uneven podcast, that's kind of my daily journey with Murphy is what that's become sometimes, and I talk a lot about him on the other podcast. I just want to mention a shout out though. If you haven't checked it out, please give it a shot. Check out the Uneven podcast. It can be found on our Easing Anxiety channel, Easing ANX on YouTube, or just go to our website, easinganxiety.com, and you can find out other locations. It's on most of the major carriers too, and it's Uneven is the name of the podcast. So, but check that out, and that's where I've talked about some of this stuff with Murphy, but a lot of other things related to anxiety, life, current issues, whatever it is that's hitting me, that I'm dealing with, or I'm reading about you all dealing with, and that's where your comments are so helpful because I use those to feed topics that we talk about. So, back to benzos. Symptoms have always been an ongoing struggle for so many of us because if we knew what to expect, I think benzo withdrawal and bind would be half of what it is for most of us. But because we don't have really good medical literature on it, and I've researched a lot of that medical literature, we don't have a lot of knowledge in the medical community on it. Oh, there goes my foot pain. See? And there it is. Yep. Ow, that hurts. Okay. I try to move my toes and work it out. I don't know why. It just shot up in my right leg. So, not the outside one of the stabbing one. This was more like a big pin or something, I think, in my big toe. But oh, it's fun. As I'm sitting here, it's good to have the nerve pain kick in because that shows the reality of this podcast. Why I have to be the guinea pig for all this, I don't know, but I have mentioned that before on the podcast that I do wonder if there's a reason why I still struggle 9.5 years out. Almost 10. I'll be 10 in August. I don't know what I'm doing for that, but we'll do something. But I think I want to believe that it's in part due to the fact that I can still relate to you all and help you all dealing with it by me still being in it. And that's the reason why I'm still in it. And that at least gives me some purpose and helps me to push through some of the pain. So that's an ongoing struggle. I think we got to find a purpose in this. I think visualization is so important, and I've mentioned that before about visualizing. This has been an ongoing theme sometimes on this podcast, which is the whole visualization, and that is just taking the pain, the symptoms, whatever the symptoms are, however they're hitting you, and there's 100 different symptoms, if not more, that can come from this. But taking that and visualizing it in a positive way. And the way I deal with is that I see bind, I see long-term benzo, protracted benzo withdrawal as a long, drawn-out healing process. It's still your body healing. And there's a lot of reason for this, medical reasons, that it is your body healing. This is your body healing. It's just taking a long freaking time, but it's your body healing. and to visualize that. And so when you get that pain or you get that thing, like even with this nerve pain, I'm visualizing that my nerve endings, my peripheral nerve system, it just hasn't, it was so damaged by the benzodiazepines that they hadn't gotten to them yet. Okay, my healing hadn't gotten to them yet. And that now they're finally starting to get the blood flow. They're starting to get the regeneration. They're starting to get the homeostasis, the equalizations hitting them. And part of that healing is this random pain firing saying, hey, I'm here, oh yeah, I'm still working. There's probably no reality in there. I understand that. There may not be any reality in that thought process, but it's a good thought process to help keep me going, because then I put a purpose to it. I put a meaning to it, and it helps it be more bearable and manageable. It doesn't hurt as much when I think that that's that nerve ending coming back to life and working. And yeah, my thought still goes into, what if this is the start of something that's just going to keep getting worse? And that's the fear, isn't it? That's the fear. But I can tell you from 9.5 years, I keep saying that, but because it's been a long time, but from my stint with benzo recovery, that hasn't happened with any symptom yet. All of my symptoms have come on, they've gotten worse for a little bit, but then they've always gotten better, and then 90% of them have faded completely. I still have some, but a lot of them have gone away completely. So that seems to be a pattern with benzo symptoms, and I've seen that pattern with so many other people, even with when it's COVID combined, that it comes on, even if it's a new one, and it freaks out for a while, but then it starts to ease, and it passes. That throat tightening, the dysphagia I had a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago with COVID, it's gone. I still occasionally have a little trouble swallowing, maybe once or twice a week. And it was every meal before, and multiple times every meal. And I had to sit in a certain position and eat very slowly. So it was pretty severe for a while. And now I swallow without thinking about it. I don't even think about it. So that one came, got strong for a bit, and left. And I believe this is also a benzo-related symptom. Although I am going to the doctor, I got a physical. I just booked one for Wednesday this week, and I'm going to go get tested and make sure there's not something else going wrong. Like with the throat one, I went and saw a gastroenterologist. I even went in and he did an endoscopy on me along with a colonoscopy, and they did an esophageal dilation. They dilated my esophagus in case that might help. So I went through some procedures. My throat started getting better, though, even before that procedure. I really don't think the dilation had anything to do. I think it was just a benzo symptom that eased over time. And I think this one will probably be the same thing. But sometimes visualizing it in a positive light can help, and visualization techniques can make a big difference. But coming back to the whole just benzo withdrawal, buying symptoms, this process is so hard. In part because we don't have the support. We don't have the stability, the consistency of solid information. Most of the information we have is coming from independent sources like myself, like certain coaches, some that have been out there for a long time, like Dr. Jennifer or Baylissa, the ones that have been around for a long, long time. Some are newer ones that have come along and been around, and are learning. Then you have the agencies, like BIC and Alliance and Benzo Warrior and so many other ones that are out there. And the benzodiazepine Reddit group that I know that I've been talking with that gentleman for a while. Just all the different organizations out there that seem to have information on benzo buddies. And, all these places can be good sources of information as long as you know what's behind it. Like Benzo Buddies can find some really great connection, and it's a great way, it's a gateway for most people getting into the benzo community. That's how they find us most of the time. But it's also an open forum, so the information's not, filtered or necessarily evidence-based. There could be some really good info, but you also need to be careful what you read and understand where it's coming from. Some of the other organizations like the Alliance and BIC and ones that I work with, and I say those a lot because we try to be more evidence-based. And even though there was a complaint about me the other day. I saw in something that I was no longer evidence-based. I was really curious where that came from, and that I'm getting away from evidence, because that hit me, and I don't understand where that came from, because I've never been more evidence-based on this podcast and on my channel. I'm on multiple research teams. I am researching like crazy. I'm reading all these different studies and learning from them. That's evidence. That's where that is. So I'm not sure why that might seem. Maybe they mean that by the new podcast that I'm less evidence-based on that one, and that one is less evidence-based. It's more a personal journey that we're taking through life and anxiety. So maybe that's what they mean. I don't know. I'd love to have them explain it to me further. If they want to contact me, that'd be great. But anyway, another tangent, which I do, as you know. But find information from good, reliable sources, I think, is the primary thing. And I think there's a lot of good ones out there, and I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying there's a lot of controversy out there, and I think many of the individuals who aren't part of the leadership don't see it. And sometimes it's good to know that it's out there, so you kind of know to be careful sometimes of what you're seeing and what you're not. And there's definitely strong opinions, like there is in any type of topic these days. And you need to use your own critical thinking, rational thinking, thought process, your own reasoning, and figure out what makes sense for you. I'm a big believer in reason and logic and thinking through these things. This is such an emotional process. Such an emotional process going through benzo withdrawal and bind, that you have to try to pull back sometimes and let the logical mind be allowed to have a say. And that's hard to do. I know. My emotional mind wants to take over and run amok every chance I get it. It's the fear. My God, the fear's still there with me. Trust me. I've had bad days lately. I get those. But we have to be careful, and we have to back off and think, wait a minute, does this really make sense? Just be logical. It seems like being rational is a bad word these days. Oh my God, I see it all the time, and I think that's what we're missing more than anything, is recognizing your emotions, respecting your emotions, but also realizing your emotions are often inaccurate. They're perspectives. It's your filter of how you perceive things, and then your emotions take over and run with it. But you sometimes got to pull back from those and let your rational brain kick in and say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why am I getting so worked up about something one person said? A person I barely know. It doesn't make sense. Yet we do it. I do it. Oh my God, I do it. But I usually try to pull back. And that's one of the things I do with benzos too, is try to pull back and go, what does the evidence really say? What did Ashton really say with her work? What do some of the reliable sources that I trust really say about this? And what are my personal experiences? What actually happened with me? And then maybe I don't have to jump on the bandwagon of something somebody else said and go down that rabbit hole of somewhere that, I think this is going to be the end of everything because this person had trouble. And that's probably not going to be you. And I think it's good to have that. And that ties back to what we started with here, which was we go on these journeys of questions and unknowing and instability and freaking out because we don't have the support we really need and deserve from the medical community. I'll be right up front and I'll tell you, we still don't have that. Again, there are amazing doctors and medical professionals that I have worked with and have been out there who get it and are sacrificing everything trying to help this cause. This is not a blanket statement. And I don't believe most doctors are trying to harm us. I really don't. I have a benevolent attitude towards most people. That's just who I am against people. It's like, towards people, I think most people are good and try to do good. I think it's a lack of education. It's a system that's not functioning well in how we educate doctors. It makes it very difficult. We're learning that in one of the surveys we're doing on a research project, that doctors don't get the information, even if we provide it, even if the FDA puts it out into a statement in 2020 saying that long-term benzodiazepines can cause damage. It doesn't mean the doctors have read it. So we just got to keep trying and try harder. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yes, I lose faith sometimes. I'll admit I've lost some faith in the last 6 to 9 months with all the things that have happened, with the losses we've had. But we can't. We got to keep moving. We got to keep going forward. If nothing for those people that we might have lost along the way, we have to keep going and trying to do the best thing we can. So I'll keep this podcast going. I'm going to keep the Uneven podcast going. And I'm going to keep being here with my symptoms. I'll share them with you. I want to hear about yours. I'm happy to share some more Benzo stories. I look forward to getting more of those in. I'm actually much more responsive now on emails and comments, so don't be afraid to write in. I got some on the website I got to respond to. I probably catch the YouTube comments quickly, so if you really want to get my attention right now, I read the YouTube comments. Positive, negative, that's a good place to be there, and I try to respond to those. I'm trying to keep those going, so I appreciate your feedback, I appreciate your interest, and I appreciate your dedication to sticking with this podcast and trying to find information. I just wanted to touch base with you today and tell you that I go through this too. I understand the frustrations with the medical establishment. I understand the frustrations with some of the other people in the benzo community that I've been hearing about, and some of the advice and stuff like that. And I understand that. I think it's just like anything. There's a lot of good out there. And there's some people that may not be providing the best information, even if they are still have good intent. Just use your own brain. Use your own brain and try to find information that you feel you can trust. That's all I'm saying. For some of us, this is a long road. I've talked to people before that have gone 10 years coming off benzos. They're rare. They are rare, despite what people might think, but they are rare. And I got about 2 months, 3 months maybe. Yeah, 3 months. And I'll be 10 years. And I've talked to people who at 10 years or shortly thereafter miraculously were healed. I don't know why. It does seem at 10 years for some people that seems to be the thing. Now, many people heal at, 6 months, a year, year and a half. I'm talking about those few of us, that very small minority that do have really drawn out bind. And with COVID and other stuff going on, it's complicating this process. I want to know more about the COVID bind relationship, and I'm doing more research on that because I do think there's a lot happening there. I did a podcast a little while ago. I'll put the link in our show notes for it, but I did a podcast on a couple of them, I think, on COVID and bind. So if you want to get more info on that, please check those out. But I think it's time I do another one. It's been over a year probably since I've done those. So. Anyway. I'm going to stop this one at this point. Don't know how long I've been talking to you. What do I got here? 26 minutes on my recorder. Okay. So yeah, I probably should wrap that up. and I'm going to be back soon, though. I'm going to try. I am not necessarily favoring Uneven a little bit because it's just more open topics and I can talk about anything. But I want to keep introducing. I want to keep the Benzo Free podcast coming out more, and there'll be more one topic thing. Like today, it's the lack of support, the questions of frustrations we deal with within the benzo community. And that's what the topic was today, and that's what I rambled on about. Hopefully there was something good in there. I hope so. But I'm going to get out one topic things. They might even be 5 minutes long. It might be 45 minutes long. I don't have a set time on these, although they've averaged around 25 to 30 minutes for most of my podcast episodes. But it's whatever it takes to cover that topic, that question, or whatever. And as we get more Q&A, I'll do one of those too. And I'm going to keep things going. This is our second one this month in May. And I'll probably get another one out before the end of May. And I was just doing one a month there for a while. So I'm already increasing the frequency of these and definitely increasing the frequency. Going to keep the increased frequency on uneven. And I hope you will check both of those out. So if you want to know more about our podcast and our site and the information we have, and there's tons of information on our website at easinganxiety.com. Please check it out. One of the best things on that site that I built it for is just log into easinganxiety.com. In the upper right, you will see a search bar. Type in what you're looking for. It will search all our podcast episodes, all our videos that we've done in the past, and yes, we will be doing some videos again coming up here. All the blog articles that I've written and others have written for our channel, all the content, even the information pages, everything is searched. It's this big search engine I've built with over 400 entries there. 400 articles, stories, podcasts, whatever. So it has a lot of content to search. So if you're looking for some information, please check out easinganxiety.com and hit the search bar and go look for what you might find. I built it, I spent a lot of time building that back engine so that you can find information you're looking for. And after 6+ years now of doing this, there's a lot of information out there, I hope. So check that out. And on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I just want to say that I'm going to pop in our disclaimer really quick right here.
Hey, this is Dee, and sorry for this brief interruption. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. You can read our full disclaimer on our website at easinganxiety.com/disclaimer. Also, if you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at easinganxiety.com. And now, back to the podcast.
And that was our disclaimer, and now I'm going to wish you all, I'm going to wish you all a day a little less stressed than the one before. A little less symptoms than the one before. A little less worry. A little less pain than the one before. Let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it to that. I love you all. Keep calm. Taper slowly. And take care of yourself. And those around you. But also yourself. I'll be back real soon. Talk to you later. Bye.